I recently faced a horrible nightmare, the kind that makes you question your sanity, your safety, and whether you'll ever feel comfortable in your own home again. The HOA president was literally breaking into my house. But by the time I was done with her, she wished she'd never even looked at my property. Let me back up. I bought my first house 6 months ago in what I thought was a quiet suburban neighborhood. 3 bedrooms, great backyard, and Yahan HOA. I know, red flag, but the fees were reasonable, the rules seemed standard, and honestly, I was just excited to finally own something. Enter Patricia, or as I lovingly came to call her, Patricia the property tyrant. Patricia was the HOA president, and she took her job more seriously than a Secret Service agent takes protecting the president. This woman was in her late 50s, always wore khaki capris with floral blouses, and had that specific haircut that somehow screams, "I want to speak to your manager." In 12 different languages, the first time I met her was 2 days after I moved in. I was unloading boxes from my truck when she appeared on my driveway like she'd materialized from thin air. "Welcome to the neighborhood," she chirped, clipboard already in hand. "I'm Patricia, HOA president. I'll need to schedule a walkthrough of your property to ensure everything is up to code." I wiped the sweat off my forehead. Thanks, I just moved in yesterday, so it's kind of a mess. Tuesday at 10, she interrupted, making a note. "I'll bring the compliance checklist. Make sure your grass is mowed by then. It's already pushing 3 inches. And just like that, she walked away. I stood there holding a box labeled kitchen stuff, wondering what the hell just happened. Tuesday came. Patricia showed up at 9:58 a.m. with a literal measuring tape and a camera. She measured my grass too. 9 inches, apparently acceptable, photographed my mailbox angle, and spent 15 minutes explaining that my house numbers needed to be visible from the street at all times, even during inclement weather. "You're welcome, mat is burgundy," she noted, frowning at her clipboard. "Yes, HOA guidelines specify neutral tones for external decor, earth tones, blacks, grays, burgundy is too vibrant." I laughed. She didn't. "I'll give you 1 week to replace it, or it's a $50 fine." That should have been my first real warning. But I was trying to be a good neighbor, so I bought a boring beige welcome mat and moved on with my life. Then things got weird. It started small. I'd come home from work and notice things slightly out of place. A kitchen chair pushed indifferently than I'd left it. My bedroom door cracked open when I knew I'd closed it. The thermostat set to 74 degrees when I always kept it at 70. At first, I thought I was losing my mind. Maybe I was more absent-minded than I realized. But then I found a coffee mug in my sink, one I'd never seen before. It had little flowers on it, very Patricia-esque. My stomach dropped. I immediately checked my locks. Front door, back door, garage, everything was locked. No signs of forced entry. Nothing was stolen, but someone had definitely been in my house. I set up a test. Before leaving for work the next day, I balanced a pen on top of my front door frame, positioned so it would fall if the door opened. When I came home, the pen was on the floor. Someone was coming into my house while I was gone. I'll be honest, I felt violated. This was my home, my sanctuary, and someone was just walking in whenever they wanted. I installed a basic security camera above my front door that night. Nothing fancy, just a wireless one that sent alerts to my phone. 2 days later, I got the notification at 11:37 a.m. Motion detected at front door. I opened the app, my hands literally shaking, and watched the live feed. Patricia walking up to my front door with her stupid clipboard and her stupid floral blouse. She looked around, actually checked over her shoulder like a cartoon villain, then pulled out a key and unlocked my door. My door with a keyway. I watched her walk inside like she owned the place. She was in there for 8 minutes. When she came out, she locked the door behind her, pocketed the key, and walked away like nothing happened. I sat in my office, staring at my phone, absolutely seeing red. How did she have a key? Why did she think this was okay? What was she even doing in there? I drove home immediately, checked every room. Nothing was missing, but I found more evidence. Cabinet doors open in the kitchen, my living room curtains adjusted, and I'm not joking, she'd moved a decorative pillow from my couch to my armchair. This psychopath was redecorating my house. I checked my paperwork from the home purchase, went through every single document, and there it was, buried in the HOA covenant from 1987. HOA board members retain emergency access keys to all properties for safety inspections and emergency situations. Emergency situations. There was no emergency. She was just coming into my house because she could. I called an emergency HOA board meeting, showed up with my footage ready for war. Patricia sat at the head of the table, calm as could be. "Oh yes, I've been conducting routine inspections. It's all within my rights as HOA president. Routine inspections." My voice cracked with anger. "You're walking into my house without my knowledge or consent. That's breaking and entering." "It's not breaking if I have a key," she smiled. Actually smiled, and according to Section 14, subsection C of the HOA covenant, I have the authority to inspect any property at any time to ensure compliance. "That's for emergencies," I said, "not for you to rearrange my furniture and make yourself coffee." The other board members, all three of them, looked uncomfortable but stayed silent. Patricia had been president for 12 years. Nobody wanted to cross her. "I haven't found any violations yet," Patricia continued. "But preventative inspection is key to maintaining neighborhood standards. I'll continue my visits as needed." I left that meeting knowing the system wouldn't help me. The HOA was Patricia's kingdom, and she was untouchable. Calling the police felt extreme, and honestly, with that covenant clause, I wasn't sure they'd even side with me. I needed a different approach. I needed proof that would bury her. That night, I set up cameras inside my house. Living room, kitchen, hallway. I also installed new locks and didn't give the HOA key. Technically, the covenant said they could have emergency access, but it didn't specify I had to hand it over proactively. 3 days later, Patricia tried her key. I watched from work as she stood on my porch, trying to unlock the door, confusion growing on her face when it didn't work. She tried it 4 more times, then actually called me. "Hi, this is Patricia from the HOA. I'm attempting to conduct a routine inspection, but my key no longer works. Did you change your locks?" "I did," I said calmly. "Security upgrade. You need to provide the HOA with a new key immediately." "I'll consider it. Have a great day, Patricia." I hung up. She called back twice. I didn't answer. The next morning, I got a formal letter. "Failure to provide HOA emergency access key within 48 hours will result in a $200 fine escalating to $500 per week until compliance is met." That's when I knew I had her. See, Patricia wasn't doing emergency inspections. She was invading my privacy, and now she was trying to fine me for not letting her continue. That's harassment. That's abuse of power. And I was going to document every single second of it. I didn't give her a key. The fines started stacking up on paper. $200, then $500, then another $500. I didn't pay a single one, but here's where it gets good. I went to Home Depot and bought something special, anti-tamper paint. This stuff is used on drainpipes and fences to deter thieves. It's thick, doesn't dry, and transfers very easily to anyone who touches it. It comes in bright red. I painted the inside edge of my door frame. Not the outside where it was visible, just the interior side, right where the door meets the frame. If someone opened my door from the outside, they wouldn't see it. But if they pushed the door open and stepped inside, they'd brush right against it. Then I waited. 2 days later at 1:14 p.m. my phone buzzed, "Motion detected at front door." I opened the camera feed. Patricia was back, and this time she brought a locksmith. I watched as this poor guy drilled out my brand new lock while Patricia stood there with her arms crossed, directing him like a general commanding troops. My blood boiled, but I stayed quiet. I was recording everything. The lock popped. The locksmith stepped aside. Patricia pushed open my door and walked right inside, and walked directly into my paint trap. I couldn't see it happen on the front camera, but the interior cameras caught everything. She stepped inside, and immediately the door brushed against her shoulder and arm. She didn't notice at first. She was too busy marching toward my kitchen, but within 30 seconds, she looked down. Her entire right shoulder and sleeve were smeared with bright, crimson red paint. What is this?" She spun around, and I watched her white caprice brush against the door frame, adding a thick red streak down her leg. She tried to wipe it off. It just smeared more. Anti-tamper paint doesn't wipe off. It's literally designed not to. She tracked red footprints through my entryway, touched my wall with her painted hand, leaving a red handprint, grabbed a kitchen towel to wipe herself, which just made it worse. I was watching this live from my office, and I swear I've never felt more satisfied in my entire life. Patricia finally gave up and stormed out, leaving red footprints down my driveway. The locksmith stared at her, died, clearly regretting every choice that led him to this moment. I saved the footage, all of it, every angle, then I called a lawyer. Turns out that HOA covenant clause about emergency access keys doesn't actually hold up legally when used for routine harassment, especially when there's zero emergency. My lawyer was practically salivating when I showed him the footage. She hired someone to drill out your lock. He said, then broke into your home without notice or consent, even after you explicitly denied access. That's criminal trespassing. The paint evidence is just a bonus. We sent Patricia a cease and desist letter. Included screenshots of her, covered in blue paint, standing in my kitchen. Demanded all fines be reversed, all harassment stop immediately, and her resignation from the HOA board. She tried to fight it. She really did. Sent back a letter claiming I'd booby, trapped my home, and that she'd file a counter suit. So we filed criminal charges for trespassing and sent the footage to every other homeowner in the HOA. The fallout was nuclear. Turns out I wasn't the only one. 3 other neighbors came forward saying Patricia had been inspecting their homes too. One couple found her trying on the wife's jewelry. Another guy caught her napping on his couch. This woman had been treating the entire neighborhood like her personal kingdom for over a decade, and nobody had ever challenged her hard enough. The HOA board voted her out unanimously. She resigned in disgrace. The police issued her a formal trespassing warning, and every single fine she'd issued me $1,400 total was voided and refunded. But here's my favorite part. That anti-tamper paint doesn't come off easily. Patricia spent weeks with red stains on her hands and arms. I'd see her at the grocery store, at the gas station, always wearing long sleeves even in the summer heat, trying to hide the evidence of her crimes. And everyone in the neighborhood knew exactly why she was red. I still live in that house. New HOA president is a retired teacher named Don who sends polite emails and mostly just organizes the holiday decoration contest. My locks are still new, my door frame is still painted, and Patricia, she moved 4 months later, couldn't handle the shame. Sometimes I think about that day I watched her step into my house, so confident, so entitled, thinking she was untouchable. And then I think about her covered in red paint, panicking in my kitchen, realizing she'd finally pushed someone too far. Best $30 I ever spent. Don't mess with people's homes, and definitely don't mess with someone who has cameras, a lawyer, and access to industrial paint supplies. Patricia learned that the hard way.